7 years ago, I made a monumental decision to quit my job and leave behind family and friends so my wife could pursue her dream job in a small town. At 41, I was a devoted husband and father, determined to support my wife's ambitions. She was 38, fiercely career-driven, and recently celebrated a significant promotion that took her an hour outside of our town, where she lived in a workhouse provided by her new role. Our marriage, once a picture of unity and mutual respect, began to unravel after her promotion. The initial joy of her career advancement quickly turned into a nightmare when she told me she wanted to separate. She said, "I love you like how I love a friend or my favorite piece of furniture," words that cut deeper than I could have imagined. Desperate to keep our family intact, I begged her to stay and work things out. She reluctantly agreed but refused any form of therapy and expressed her disdain for my night job. In an effort to appease her, I switched to a day job, hoping it would bridge the growing chasm between us. Despite my sacrifices, it became clear that her heart was no longer in our marriage. She started spending more time away, coming home only on weekends, if at all. Her affection turned into cold indifference, leaving me to care for our children during the week. The strain of our situation was palpable, and the small town buzzed with rumors of her late-night outings and possible affair with a male co-worker. I found myself trapped in a cycle of hope and despair, clinging to the remnants of our once happy life, while she seemed to drift further away. This was just the beginning of a tumultuous journey that would test my resilience and redefine the meaning of love and loyalty. When my wife declared that she loved me like a friend or a piece of furniture, it felt like a blow to the gut. The woman I had dedicated my life to, the mother of my children, was suddenly speaking to me with a cold detachment I couldn't comprehend. In my desperation, I begged her to stay, to give our marriage another chance. Reluctantly, she agreed but set clear boundaries. There would be no therapy, and she made it known how much she despised my night job. Desperate to salvage our relationship, I acquiesced to her demands. I changed to a day job, which not only meant a significant pay cut, but also a complete upheaval of my daily routine. Despite the strain, I took on the primary responsibility of caring for our children during the week. My days were spent juggling work and parenting, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy for our kids. Meanwhile, my wife visited on weekends, a routine that quickly grew erratic. Some weekends she would come home, and there would be moments when it felt like we were a family again. She would say, "I love you," spend time with me, and even cuddle. But these fleeting moments of intimacy were often followed by stretches of cold indifference. Her visits became less frequent, her presence more distant, and our conversations about the state of our relationship were met with shutdowns and avoidance. This roller coaster of emotions was taking a toll on me. I was stuck in a perpetual state of limbo, unsure of where we stood. To make matters worse, living in a small town meant that news of her late-night outings and rumored affair with a co-worker reached me through the grapevine, adding salt to the wound. Despite my efforts to keep our family together, it was becoming increasingly clear that my wife was pulling away, leaving me to navigate the challenges of parenthood and a crumbling marriage on my own. Living in a small town, the emotional roller coaster of my wife's behavior was magnified by the close-knit community's whispers and rumors. One moment, my wife would be affectionate, telling me she loved me, spending quality time with me and the kids, and even showing signs of rekindling our lost intimacy. In those moments, I would cling to the hope that perhaps, just perhaps, we could find our way back to each other. However, these moments were fleeting. More often than not, she would become cold and distant, retreating into her world and leaving me to manage our home and children alone. As her visits home grew sporadic, I noticed a troubling pattern. She started spending more time out, drinking and partying, often with people I barely knew. The woman who once cherished quiet evenings at home was now frequently spotted at local bars and social events. It wasn't long before the rumors began to circulate. In a town as small as ours, secrets don't stay hidden for long. Whispers of her having an affair with a male co-worker reached my ears, adding another layer of agony to an already painful situation. The gossip became unavoidable. Friends and neighbors would give me sympathetic looks, and some even attempted to broach the subject delicately. It was as if the entire town was privy to my private hell, each rumor and sideways glance a reminder of my crumbling marriage. My wife's erratic behavior and the town's relentless chatter left me feeling more isolated than ever. Despite the turmoil, I tried to keep our home stable for the sake of our children, but inside, I was unraveling. The emotional whiplash of her alternating affection and indifference, combined with the growing evidence of her infidelity, was tearing me apart. I was stuck in a nightmare, unable to wake up, with the woman I loved slipping further away with each passing day. The breaking point came when I visited my wife's workhouse, an hour outside our town, where she had been living most of the week since her promotion. It was a rare occasion, driven by necessity, as one of our kids had a sleepover birthday party in the area. Upon arriving, I felt a strange unease in the pit of my stomach, a premonition of the heartache to come. As I walked through her immaculate living space, my attention was drawn to a photo wall in the living room. There, among pictures of our kids and her friends, was a prominent display of images featuring her and the male co-worker who had become the subject of town gossip. The sight of those photos, showing moments of shared laughter and closeness, made my blood run cold. I could no longer ignore the elephant in the room. Summoning every ounce of courage, I confronted her. "Where are we, really?" I asked, my voice strained with a mix of anger and desperation. Her response was blunt and devoid of emotion. "We are nothing." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I pressed further, seeking clarity, asking why we continued this charade of a marriage if she felt nothing for me. Her answer was chillingly manipulative. She turned the tables on me, stating that it was I who wanted to maintain this farce. When I mentioned wanting a proper divorce to end the limbo that was slowly killing me, she revealed her ace. She would seek full custody of our 3 children. The threat of losing my kids and forcing them into a disruptive, exhausting commute was a cruel blow. It was a calculated move to keep me tethered to a marriage that was already dead. I left the workhouse feeling more trapped than ever, sick to my stomach with a mix of rage and helplessness. Her manipulation was clear, and I knew I was dealing with someone who would go to any lengths to maintain control. My heart ached with the realization that the woman I once loved had become someone I barely recognized. The confrontation at the workhouse solidified the grim reality of our situation, leaving me with more questions than answers and a profound sense of despair about our future. After the confrontation at the workhouse, I was consumed by a suffocating sense of entrapment. Financial constraints weighed heavily on me, as the house in town was rented in my name and my day job paid significantly less than my previous night job. Even though I had managed to establish a new social circle and some semblance of stability, the financial burden made it impossible to envision a future where I could afford to live independently while providing for my 3 kids. Emotionally, I was being held hostage by my wife's manipulative tactics. Her threat to seek full custody of the kids was a dagger to my heart, effectively paralyzing any attempt to break free from the toxic cycle we were caught in. I found myself constantly teetering on the edge of despair, tormented by the reality that leaving her might mean losing my children, or worse, subjecting them to a strained and divided existence. My mind was a battlefield of conflicting emotions. On one hand, I desperately longed for the end of the constant emotional roller coaster that left me feeling hollow and drained. On the other, the love and duty I felt towards my children made the prospect of divorce seem like a selfish and destructive choice. Every time I looked into their innocent eyes, the weight of the decision pressed down harder on my shoulders. I began contemplating a future without my wife, wrestling with the idea of moving on and finding peace. Yet, every potential step forward was met with the grim reminder of her cold threats and the havoc she could wreak on our family's stability. The dream of a fresh start seemed increasingly distant, overshadowed by the oppressive reality of our situation. The joy and fulfillment I once found in my marriage had been replaced by a relentless sense of dread and helplessness, leaving me in a perpetual state of limbo, unsure of how to navigate the treacherous waters of my fractured life. During a holiday break, I decided to take the kids on a day trip to lift their spirits and give myself a much-needed distraction. We joined a single mom and her children for a casual outing, exploring a nearby nature reserve. It was a platonic and innocent excursion, filled with laughter, picnicking, and the simple joy of watching our children play together. The single mom was kind and understanding, providing a refreshing sense of camaraderie that I hadn't felt in a long time. The day was a success, leaving us all in high spirits as we returned home. Upon our arrival, my wife was already back from her workhouse, a rare occurrence in recent months. The kids excitedly recounted the day's events, their faces alight with happiness. To my surprise, my wife's reaction was markedly different from her usual detached demeanor. Instead of the cold distance I had grown accustomed to, she seemed genuinely interested and engaged. Her eyes followed our every move, and she listened intently to the children's enthusiastic stories. Over the next few days, her behavior took an even more unexpected turn. She began saying, "I love you" again, words I hadn't heard from her in what felt like an eternity. She started talking about our future together, discussing plans to move back into town, and even hinted at rekindling the affection that had once defined our marriage. Her sudden attentiveness and renewed expressions of love left me in a state of confusion and skepticism. It was hard to reconcile this newfound warmth with the months of emotional neglect and manipulation. I couldn't shake the feeling that her change of heart was somehow connected to the day trip with the single mom. Had she seen it as a threat to her control over our family? Or was she genuinely reconsidering the separation and realizing the value of what we had built together? My mind raced with questions, and while a part of me longed to believe in her sincerity, the scars of her past actions kept my guard up. The sudden shift in our dynamic added another layer of complexity to an already convoluted situation, leaving me more uncertain than ever about the path forward. My wife's sudden shift in behavior left me in a whirlwind of suspicion and confusion. After months of her being distant and emotionally detached, her newfound attentiveness felt almost surreal. The words, "I love you," now felt foreign, laden with a mix of hope and mistrust. Each affectionate gesture from her, instead of bringing solace, intensified my internal conflict. Was this genuine remorse and a desire to mend our fractured relationship, or merely a strategic move to regain control? The doubts gnawed at me relentlessly. As much as I wanted to believe that she had a genuine change of heart, the memories of her coldness and the rumors of her infidelity were hard to erase. Her unpredictability had conditioned me to brace for disappointment, making it difficult to fully embrace her sudden warmth. The emotional roller coaster of the past few years had taken its toll, and I found myself constantly questioning her motives. At the same time, I began to reflect on the life I had built in her absence. Switching to a day job had brought unexpected benefits, allowing me to forge new friendships and establish a stable routine for the kids and myself. The camaraderie I found in my new group of friends provided a support system I hadn't realized I needed. For the first time since moving to this small town, I felt a sense of belonging and stability that had been missing from my life. This new life, though challenging, had given me a fresh perspective. I had learned to be self-reliant and discovered a strength within myself that I didn't know existed. The thought of uprooting this newfound stability to return to a marriage filled with uncertainty was daunting. Did I truly want to be with my wife again, or was I clinging to the idea of what our relationship used to be? The realization that I might be better off without her began to take root, leaving me to grapple with a choice that would redefine my future. The internal conflict raged on, as I weighed the comfort of familiarity against the promise of a new beginning. As I stood on the precipice of a life-altering decision, the weight of my choice bore down on me. The thought of divorce was terrifying, not just for the emotional upheaval it would bring, but for the potential custody battle and its impact on our children. The prospect of them being shuttled back and forth, caught in the crossfire of a contentious separation, haunted me. I feared the emotional scars it could leave on their young minds, and the stability they so desperately needed seemed threatened. But as I reflected on the past few years, the memories of my wife's emotional manipulation and the roller coaster of affection and neglect resurfaced with vivid clarity. Her declaration that she loved me like a piece of furniture still stung, a painful reminder of her casual dismissal of our relationship. The countless nights I had spent alone, burdened with childcare and household responsibilities while she partied and possibly indulged in an affair, added to my resolve. These memories painted a picture of a marriage that had long been fractured, held together only by my desperate attempts to salvage it. In stark contrast, the support I had found in my new friends offered a glimpse of what my life could be. These relationships, built on mutual respect and understanding, provided a stark counterpoint to the toxic dynamics of my marriage. The single mom, whose company I had found comfort in, represented a purely platonic yet deeply reassuring presence. Her strength and independence were inspiring, reinforcing my belief that a fulfilling life could exist beyond the confines of my troubled marriage. With every interaction, my new friends reaffirmed my desire for a fresh start. They stood by me, offering advice, support, and a sense of community that I had sorely missed. Their unwavering belief in my worth and potential gave me the courage to envision a future free from the emotional shackles of my past. As I weighed my options, the path forward became clearer. The years of turmoil and manipulation had taken their toll, and I realized that clinging to a marriage devoid of genuine love and respect was not the answer. The decision to pursue a divorce, though fraught with challenges, seemed like the necessary step toward reclaiming my life and ensuring a stable, loving environment for my children. The support from my new friends and the strength I had discovered within myself gave me the confidence to face whatever lay ahead. Despite my wife's sudden attempts to reconcile, I decided to proceed with the divorce. Her newfound declarations of love felt insincere, and I couldn't ignore the years of emotional manipulation and neglect. My mental health and the stability of our children took precedence over maintaining a facade of a happy marriage. It was a painful decision, but one that I knew was necessary for all of us to heal and move forward. As expected, the custody battle was arduous and draining. My wife's manipulative nature came to light during the proceedings, revealing the extent of her deceit and the emotional toll it had taken on me. The court saw through her attempts to paint herself as the perfect parent and acknowledged my role as the primary caregiver during our separation. This recognition was bittersweet. It validated my struggles, but also highlighted the deep rift that had formed between us. In the end, I was granted partial custody of our children. This outcome allowed me to remain a constant presence in their lives, providing the stability and love they needed. However, the victory felt hollow. The process had left emotional scars, and the realization that our family would never be whole again weighed heavily on my heart. The house, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with a sense of loss and broken dreams. Rebuilding my life was both liberating and daunting. The support of my new friends and the single mom who had become a trusted confidant helped me navigate this uncharted territory. Together, we created a supportive community that became a source of strength and encouragement. My days were filled with moments of joy and connection, but the nights were often consumed by the haunting memories of what could have been. As I stood on the threshold of a new chapter, I felt a mix of liberation and uncertainty. The freedom from my toxic marriage came at a significant cost. The broken family, the emotional battles, and the lingering sadness were constant reminders of the price I had paid for my newfound independence. I was hopeful yet cautious about the future, knowing that healing would take time and that the scars might never fully fade. The journey ahead was unknown, but I was determined to face it with resilience and an open heart for myself and my children.